message part of our program. And I want to introduce Kate Cavenaugh because she's going to be doing the songs as well as sharing the message with me. When we were preparing for this, I asked her to give me a bio that we could use as an intro because I wasn't sure who would be introducing her. And if it were left to me, I would just come up with whatever I felt like saying. And I probably still will. But she sent me such a beautiful intro that I want to share it with you. Kate is a way seer, a medicine woman, a ceremonialist, a new thought leader and guide. She is passionate about living an exquisite life. She, in this present moment and feeling Gaia beneath her feet, she lives in the frequency of unconditional love. She lives that with her beloved in the embodiment of her awakening. She lives it with everyone that she comes in contact with. I can tell you that from experience. Kate continues on the journey of consciousness and in the resilience and expansive energy of transformation. It's a remarkable journey, not a destination. She didn't even mention what a beautiful voice she has. She sings, she plays guitar, she plays the drum. I got to sit beside her as we were doing the opening chants, and she's doing harmonies, and I'm thinking, whoa, that's so beautiful. And I guess what I really love about her, besides her heart, is her ability to be present in the moment. And the fact that the two of us are up on stage today was in response. We had some conversation about how she was really feeling at home in this community, and she has not been a church person, maybe as a kid, I don't know, I forget, but not lately. And coming here, she just felt at home, and we just kept talking, and the next thing you know, I was inviting her to do the talk with me, because really, when I listen to her, I feel like I'm listening to the things that come out of my mouth, and she has said the same thing, and so we thought, let's just do it together and see what happens, because she and I share this ability to just be in the moment and let what needs to come. So, we both have notes of what we think we're going to talk about, and we will see what happens. But I just want to welcome Kate and bless you for being here. And you are all in for a treat. See, we're doing this in the moment.
Good morning. Good morning. What an honor it is to stand here this morning with my dear sister Jane, and with an opportunity for us together to allow the stream of consciousness of our truth and our hearts to express to you what has been brewing in conversation around the sacredness and the holiness of the shadow, of the darkness, and of how we can embrace that in our lives without fear and in a state of non-judgment and watch the magic happen. So this morning, I thought it'd be appropriate to do a song that has filled this room many times. It's an honoring song for the Four Directions. It was written by a beautiful artist who has passed. Her name is Kate Wolf, and so I'm always in deep love and gratitude for her creative energy, and that that has blessed my heart, and I'd like to share that with you. This is called The Four Directions. When the morning breaks and the sunlight warms my soul, in the east the eagle flies and the red tail proudly soars. I'm on my way to the place of the sacred one. Grandfather, hear me now, for I'm on fire. Let the sundance guide my feet to your desire. Give me visions for my eyes and words like gold that glisten in the sun. Hiya, hiya, hiya. Look towards the west. Look toward the west, like the water I will run. In innocence and trust, this moonchild's song is sung. I'm on my way to the place of the sacred plant. My emotion and my will at your command. Let the turtle's voice be heard across the land. The wise coyote prowls, and rattlesnake calls me to her dance. Hi-ya, hi-ya, hi-ya. When the sun goes down and it grows too dark to see, I look within to the shaman's mystery. I'm on my way to die and live again. Grandmother, hear me now, for I cry. The eagle and the bear, the way of the herb and black obsidian. Hi-ya, hi-ya, hi-ya. In the darkest night, the stars watch over me. Old woman of the north, oh, my mind seeks clarity. I'm on my way to the place of the northern wind. Let the thunder and the lightning carry me. Lay my thoughts to rest and bring me into sleep. The hawk and the buffalo, my dreams' white crystal magic medicine. Hi-ya, 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 hi-ya.
was so beautiful. Thank you so much. So we thought we'd just do something different and get up in these directors' chairs and have the conversation between us. And
These two old gals are getting up in the direction.
yeah, that's the first challenge of the unknown. Can you still do it?
I practiced last night. Do I just pop that right there? Do I just touch that?
There you go.
Thank you. Thank you. So testing, there we are. Okay. Wonderful.
So I think one of the things that really struck me about darkness when we were talking about dancing with life as a theme for this season, the darkness gets a really bad rap, doesn't it? We think about, the powers of Mordor descending and everything is in darkness now and it's bad. And I think that we need to reclaim the darkness. Just one of the pains of darkness being framed in that way is what it has done to all of the people who have dark skin. There has been this unconscious prejudice against them, and that's not okay. It's not truth. And so, as a collective, it's important that we reclaim it for reasons of inclusivity and love. And it's also important that we reclaim it because we have experiences of darkness in our life. And if we label them as bad, then we don't get the richness that is available for us. Darkness is actually the energy of the unknown and the energy of gestation.
When we plant the beautiful seed into the ground, it sits in the dark, rich soil, in the dark, no light, and it begins to send its roots down. And then as it grows, it pops out into the light. And it's growing this way, and it's growing this way. So we're growing in the darkness as much as we're growing into the light. And I think that we look at that more as unified feel of oneness rather than the opposite, right? It's that and. We are doing this and. And I think that's so true in the life that we're leading that has sad and seemingly shadowy places, that when we embrace the shadow, when we sit quietly in our suffering or in our sorrow and allow ourselves to feel that fully first, it's then the healing truly begins. It begins in the shadow.
I've been experiencing this very personally, so you know that I'm retiring at the end of the year from being the senior minister. And initially I thought, oh, that's just going to feel like, phew, because I'm tired. And so there is a little bit of that, but what I was unprepared for is how much grief I would feel. And it isn't so much grief that I want to jump up and do all the things I've been doing. It's not that. It's a grief of letting go of a piece of my identity, even though I know that that's part of an ego construct. We walk in two worlds. And so it's how I think of myself from day to day, how I organize my life as I go along. And even more, it's my relationship with all of you, which all of you you're just so much a part of my heart and soul. And so I don't know what it will look like. I find myself, about death and the stages of death, and I find myself bargaining like, well, I can still do this, right? And I'm not sure. And so I'm really walking into the unknown. Kate was so kind. She offered me time to come because Ruth Miller, I had had a couple of conversations with Ruth Miller, and she said, well, you need to get clear on what you want. And I don't know about you. Is that a hard question for you to answer sometimes? It's like, okay, just put that on the list of the exhausting list of things I have to do. Get clear on what I want to do.
Oh, no, Jane, honey, you have to do that first. Yeah. Sorry.
But anyway, so the way I had to do it was put it on my schedule, a time to figure out what I wanted. I'm just a little bit Capricorn, for those of you into astrology. So anyway, Kate offered me her place, and it was just so wonderful and nurturing and allowed me to get some clarity on some of the things that I didn't want, some of the things that I did want. And what I really got, if I were going to summarize it, was that I need time in the darkness. I need that space of unknowing. I need time for the star seeds of my soul to grow and see what they will become. And I can come up with a couple of ideas of, well, maybe it could be this or that, but really, I don't know.
You don't have to know the way knows the way. You don't have to plan the way, trust the way, feel the way knows, the way knows, the way knows the way. She might be a little fussy, so maybe I should talk for a minute. No.
Yeah, go for it.
What if we didn't have to really know? What if we could live in a world that has an embracing of the wonder, of the shadows, of the darkness? Since Jane and I sat at my home, I offered her a geodesic dome that's on our property, and it's beautiful sacred geometry. And we built a warming fire for her and brought cozy blankets and a sweet spot for her to just lean in to answering the questions, right? And since that time together, I've been just diving deep into, okay, where did we go to this place of being afraid of the dark? And so I found myself in this deep study of when electricity happened to the world and how our consciousness changed, because in the darkness, in that soft darkness, we prayed, we listened, we embraced the darkness as this place for our reverence in ancient time. And then the advent of the light crashed in and took the softness of night, the sweetness of prayer, the lovely energy of sitting still, because that was the natural thing to do, because we didn't have, that was just it, right? There was no light to impede that, right? And in the study, there was this conversation that I just want to share with you really quick, Jane. I think that this will stay in the circle of understanding the shadow, is that in ancient times, it was clear that we have two spaces at night of sleep and a soft and gentle place in between. In some cultures, they called that the hour of the wolf. In some, they called it the hour of prayer. And in the Judaic, it was hour of God. There was a word or a saying for this soft space between the first sleep, the soft awakening, where you may write a poem, or you may get a grand idea, or answer the question, what next, or do a meditation, or just simply sit in the darkness and embrace it. And then the next sleep that you softly go into was deep REM sleep. Science has discussed that. Have any of you woken up at 2, 3, or 4 o'clock in the morning? Do you know that this is your natural circadian rhythm to do this, that it is a good thing? So if we wake up and say, oh, right? I call that the hour of the wolf. That's me going, ow, like I wish I was asleep. But when I learned to embrace this simple, sweet time, I found that I went back into a restful sleep way more quickly, that I prayed more, that I listened more. And again, it's a journey, not a destination, right? But to embrace that softness in the middle of the night instead of stressing about it, worrying about it, getting it up, get on your phone, turn on a light. Don't do all that. Please. I mean, you can if you want. But what I say is embrace the darkness in that time. See what it feels like to just softly be there. I have found myself putting a shirt that my husband loves to drop right there. I'll pick it up. And I put it over the clock that used to brightly shine in my room. I didn't have real darkness. I got curtains that let out, kept all the light out from outside. I covered that darn little clock and found myself in deep darkness and embraced it. And so, this is just one little way that we can embrace the darkness of our cycle of 24 hours in a more beautiful way. So I hope that blesses you. I hope you find your hour of prayer or meditation or your hour of the wolf in a gentle way. Yeah.
I was thinking about the Dark Ages, which, as it turns out, that was something that past the period that was called the Dark Ages. Somebody looked back fondly on what they imagined the Roman times were, and they decided that everything in between then and there now was dark. And so it was, haven't you grown up thinking about the Dark Ages and it's kind of a bad time? And it's certainly not enlightened. And yet during the, quote, Dark Ages, it was a time of high mysticism.
This is right.
High mysticism. And when people had the ability to take challenges that were coming their way and go within and find such a connection to the divine. There were things that were going on, like the invention of spectacles. Anybody have some assistance with their eyes right now? That began to be remediated during that time. Windmills that were upright were invented then. The whole concept of the university was invented then. There was a lot going on during that time. In the darkness, things are being birthed. Think about it. When do you get your best ideas? They're not while you're scrolling on your phone, right? They're not while you're running around doing things. They're when you're quiet, when you've set an intention and then you wait and you see what might come. And just, boom, there it is.
Oh, that's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. That's a mic drop, but don't. But that's definitely a mic drop. Yeah, that is so. It's so true. And as you're speaking, I'm also thinking about my suffering feels dark. Mm-hmm. Like I'm equating those things that are difficult into this darkness, this abyss. And truly, if we don't have the darkness and the shadows, how do we really know the brilliance of the light? How? Mm-hmm. Right? And it is in the sorrowful, shadowy places that, as we had mentioned, that the healing really does begin. When we can look at ourselves and feel those feelings fully first. And recognize that the way through is the acceptance and the surrender of those things in the shadow. Mm-hmm. Part of the study was also looking at where did we fear darkness first. This is interesting, this little tidbit. When babies really began to not sleep in their mother's beds, that's when humanity began to find fear in that aloneness, not in the darkness, but in the aloneness. But now it translates into that children in the fear of the dark. And guess what? I think we're giving them that more than they're finding their way to it. But the statement was really, let your baby sleep in your bed until they're ready to sleep on their own. And that's a whole other story. But just suffice to say, we're looking at what happens in the shadow and how our storyline has twisted and created a whole different reality than actually that there is, that it's blackness on a line to light. It's the same thing. It's dark black, and then it becomes charcoaled gray, and then a lighter gray, and then sort of a gray white, and ooh, now where are we into the brilliance of the light? It's a continuum. And maybe it's a continuum like this, that we're always cycling in and through, and that we can always be healing in the energy of it, of this beautiful motion. I have my daughter, you were talking about your daughter, I'm thinking about mine too. My youngest daughter has recently been divorced. She has 2 little kids, and her heart is just so broken at the loss of relationship and family. And then how am I going to do this thing called motherhood when I've got a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old? I mean, it's a big question. It's a big question. I put my hand up and said, there, we have extra room. Come here till you get through this transitional place. But she wants to stay. But she couldn't breathe in this sorrow of what was lost. She couldn't get her breath in this sorrow. And for her, it felt so dark and there was no way to climb out until she realized that it was necessary to let this go, to feel it fully, and then just begin day by day to breathe deeper breaths, to learn to lighten her heart. And it is really, again, that shadow into the light. And I've had to sit and hold space for her. I want to fix it for her, right? Don't we always want to make it better for our children? But I knew that this was her heroine's journey. And so holding a sacred space for her in prayer, because we know that works. And honestly, I have been seeing her shifting out of that, just in my stillness and in my prayerfulness, in allowing her to be in her shadow. Because it is not something to fear. When we embrace it, we begin the healing journey.
Yeah, I think we find aspects of our soul that we were unfamiliar with in the darkness. And that's really what we're here for, is to bring all of us forward. Not just the part that was approved of by those who raised us. Those are the parts that are polished, right? But the parts that were not okay, we find those as we go through our challenges and the shadows of our life. And that's so important to bring those forth. And I was thinking about Halloween because it's fun. I think it's fun. I like to have all kinds of things out front that my grandson and I put up that are scary, if you want to be scared, or silly, if you want to think of it as silly, but it's playful. And if I think about the roots of Halloween, it goes back into the Celtic tradition. Samhain is what they call it. But it came out as a way to play with the dark. They were thinking, well, we'll scare off any bad energies that are coming our way by, walking around with jack-o'-lanterns and so forth. But it happens in other cultures too. Over in Asia, there's one called the Hungry Ghost Festival. There's Dia de los Muertos that we're familiar with. These are all festivals about playing with death, having it not being so heavy and serious. And so we could entertain the idea that we could welcome joyfully even the struggles that come to us. I mean, that seems almost like something a heretic would say. What do you mean? Welcome struggles. But I think Rumi has a poem about that, doesn't he? About all the things that come to your door, throw the door open and welcome them.
Mm-hmm. He says what you seek is seeking you too, right? Mm-hmm. The same essence is what's in, so what's so within, so without.
Yeah.
That's so amazing, thinking about all the different cultures, and yet where are we in our culture? Sometimes I really ponder our need for ritual and ceremony. Don't you feel like that's calling you? Because we just aren't that. There are many different tribal and different places. The culture has ceremony. In the Native American, they always set a small plate for their ancestors. Mm-hmm. Whenever there's a gathering and a meal, there was always a little plate, and we'd all put a little of all of the tasty morsels there, and then it would be taken outside and set out for the ancestors. Mm-hmm. What is our ceremonies? Where can we find holy spaces and places? And because Jane, I think I'm a little older than you. I'm 70. Let's get real. What are you?
I'm turning 76.
Okay, she's my big sister. Great. I'm catching you fast. Okay, I'm just wanting to know. You didn't know that, but in so many cultures, they have elders. They honor and they revere them, and they are the wisdom keepers. They're a part of it all. And I was looking at our culture and the shadow that we hold for our senior citizens, the older people. Are we being held as elder? Can we reconfigure or reinstate in our hearts what it is to be a crone, which has been demonized and put into, like it's an ugly hag. By the way, hag in literal Greek translation, not Greek, but somewhere other language, was the Holy One. Mm-hmm. And it got twisted and it got turned to a little old lady with the wart on her nose, and that's the hag. And no, it's the Holy One. Because our elders, the women who step into the mantle of the energy of crone, are the wisdom keepers. And we cannot throw us away. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Let us celebrate. If you have an elder in your midst, young ones, sit with them and ask them what they hold, because we all have a gift for you. We want to come as elders out of that shadow of being irrelevant, of being invisible, and stand up forthright in our wisdom and in the truth that we hold that will bless this world. And when we speak up, guess what? When we change and we hold that, the world changes. When I change, the world around me changes. And so I'm feeling like, okay, we've been in the shadow. Our elders have been in this shadow. Mm-hmm. And we felt it as lack and not mattering anymore. Mm-hmm. But maybe we've just been percolating. Mm-hmm. Maybe we've just been in this pause, not really having something in this culture that would help us to rise up. Maybe, all y'all, I see you. I know who you are. Maybe we rise. Why are we waiting for them to give us permission? Why don't we show them our relevance? How about that?
So another angle, besides that one, is something called thin times. Ooh. So this time of year, I think this also is from a Celtic tradition, but thin times are when the veil is the thinnest between the world beyond and this world that we experience. In thin times, and so again, we're celebrating the dead because they're in a world that's beyond, a different dimension than we are in. We are celebrating that death is not an end point, it's a transition point. They move through a veil. And we can commune with those who have gone beyond because it isn't over. There is still aliveness that just doesn't end. It transitions. And in the thin times, and I don't know why exactly, except for the seasons. And in the seasons, if you think about it right now, the leaves are falling from the trees. The vibrancy and the light that keeps us out playing and active and all that, that's passing. We're moving into a time of darkness. And I just love what you said about the electricity and the time when we didn't have that distraction. We're moving into a time energetically when there is more opportunity to commune with the energy that is beyond us. Whether you think of that as your ancestors or you think of that as beings from another dimension, holding wisdom that we can access. During these thin times, we are particularly able to do it. We can do it all the time. It's just, sometimes it's easier. Sometimes we're more in the mood for it. And the season right now is cooperating to put us in the mood.
Everything in perfect timing, Jane, right? It's all divinely appointed. And so is this conversation that we're having with you, sort of for you, but really we're all in this conversation together. I love that because our ancestors are watching and celebrating our healing. They've healed. They're in my opinion is in this life, death, life energy. Energy. We are energy. Our divine essence is energy, right? It never dies. So wherever, we can't imagine where they are, we can make up stories, and that's okay, but know that there's an access point there for all of our ancestral. And the work that we do is this internal work that they celebrate, because we're breaking the chains of the brokenness and the family lineage of behavior and all of that. As we do, they're having a party. They're celebrating us because we're moving through and becoming whole through our brokenness. And so I just love that. And I truly believe that this room is filled to overflowing with all of our guides and our angels, the ascended masters, and all of the beautiful beings that are for each and every one of us. They could be, some of your ancestors are a part of this quote-unquote team, and they sit and they wait, and they hold sacred space for you. But they wait for you to activate them, to acknowledge them. And when they do, you get incredible downloads from them. I promise you. I know this might be a little woo-woo, but I think you can handle it. Right? Can they handle it? They can handle it, right?
They can handle it.
This is where we are. So, today when you take a walk into the woods, and all of this unknown that seems like maybe murky or shadowy is not. They're light and they're bright. And you have these beautiful beings that are accompanying you. But they're such ladies and gentlemen, if you will, because they wait for us to say, come, commune with me. I'd love to hear from you. And they will speak in ways that might surprise you.
I think this would be a great transition point for our meditation.
I do too.
Have you
had enough? Have we played in the dark and in the shadow with you enough? I hope that it has blessed you. Thank you.